invite our next keynote speaker for Finamics 21, Sri Suresh Prabhuji. Sir is known as a man of action, a well-respected personality featured among the top 3 leaders of the future by Asia Week magazine. Sir has held 10 cabinet positions, 6-time member of parliament, and is currently India's Sherpa to G7 and G20. It's our absolute privilege to have you with us today. We welcome you, sir.
Good afternoon, friends. Let me offer you my best wishes. And first of all, let me request you to please be safe. Don't take any chances, because when you are young, you feel nothing can happen to me. Nothing will happen to you, but at the same time, take precaution, take care, not only for yourself, but for your family, for your friends, for your colleagues and everybody. So be safe. I'm very happy that this very interesting program that you organized called Finamics, in which we have fun and we have what else? I hope I could also have fun. But actually, I'm not young like you. I'm an old man. And more importantly, today, I cannot even move out of the house because of all the restrictions that are pushed, and I feel that I should follow the protocol. Therefore, I'm not able to join you in person, but I'm sure soon I'll be able to come to your campus and we can talk to each other better as person to person, face to face. But let me offer you my best wishes. And you have given me a very interesting topic to talk about. It is like reminiscing my old past life. To talk about my various ministerial responsibilities, and you also want me to talk about the G20, G7, which is my current responsibility. So let me briefly tell you what the G20 and G7 really means. As you know, in the world, it's always difficult to govern the world, because your vice chancellor will tell you, your principal will tell you how difficult it is to govern a campus. So when a campus is so difficult to govern, you can imagine how difficult it must be to govern the whole world, because each country has different challenges, different issues, and each one of the country, nationality, different languages, different culture, different background, different priorities. And in that context, it is very difficult to work together as a country. So world has become a complex thing to manage, to govern. So we have created United Nations. But United Nations, over a period of time, has multifarious activities, many arms, but no one can say that it is so effective that it can govern the world to deal with all kinds of situations, all kinds of challenges. And therefore, over a period of time, we have seen that world has to be governed. And therefore, after 1998, 2008, when there was this big crisis, financial crisis in the world, the G20 countries came together, the 20 large economies of the world came together, and they decided to work as a platform. Before that, G7 has always been there as the 7 largest economies of the world. Now, over a period of time, G7 economies are not the largest economies of the world. India is the 5th largest economy of the world, and still not part of the G7. So therefore, France, 2 years ago, invited Prime Minister Modi to be guest country for the G7. And last year, President Trump, as a president of the United States, which were president holding the presidency of G7, invited Prime Minister Modi to be part of the G7 grouping. And in fact, he said that we must expand the G7 to bring in country like India on board. G20 has 86% of the global GDP and most important part of the world. So these two groupings are very important. And in that, Prime Minister Modi leads the charge as of India's Prime Minister, and there to represent Prime Minister Modi and to make sure that we prepare for the summit, I represent India in G20 and G7. And we are dealing with all complex issues, right? From economy, environment, social issues, climate change, issues related to energy, issues related to terrorism, issues related to money laundering, and whatnot. And all that discussion takes place in G20, as well as some of them in G7. And therefore, I take part in that. So that's why explaining to you what is responsibility of this. Coming to my ministerial responsibilities, because I know you have many speakers lined up today, so I'll not be too long. To talk about ministerial responsibility, we have I will divide my responsibilities. I had 10 different cabinet positions, but to put it to help to talk about these issues, I dealt with ministry dealing with infrastructure. I was a minister of railways, I was a minister of aviation, I was a minister of power, and I was minister of infrastructure bracket. As a railway minister, I came out with a massive plan for modernization of railways by increasing capital expenditure, by raising resources for the railways, which was unprecedented. I'm glad that all what I said has been in public domain because I presented 2 full budgets of Prime Minister Modi's government. And in that, I laid down the entire plan. And I'm glad that now this has become part of 2030 plan of the railways. All the point that I mentioned in my railway budget speech has been now made part of the 2030 plan for the vision for the railways. I started a new paradigm shift in the railways. Railways were not necessarily known for passengers' comfort. I said we'll work in the railway ministry as helping passengers and customers to be the focal point of railways operations. And to do that, I did many things. If you go to railway station, which was before 2014, and now it is completely changed because I started a process of cleaning railway stations, bringing top-class facilities like elevator, travelator, lifts on the railway station. I started a practice of putting the wheelchairs on railway station. I started practice of starting vending machines on railway station. I started practice of ensuring that you can order your food traveling in the railways, sitting in your coach as e-catering. I started modernizing the railway coaches of trains, whether they are Tejas, whether they are different kinds of trains, not trains. The trains were started all the time, but I started new branches of trains. Humsafar Express, Antyodaya Express, Express for common people, Express for, in that, the trains are looking like the aeroplanes. So all these services we started as a railway minister. I started practice that when you are traveling on the train, if you have a complaint to make, you can make it while you are traveling on the train. While you are still in the coach, your train will solve the problem. And this is the best in the world. No one could ever imagine that so many large number of passengers complaints can be reached to the government as while they're still traveling. And as a railway minister, I not only started the practice, but I used to monitor it. I used to ensure it is addressed. I started a practice of clean my coach service. That is, while you are traveling, you can fit the clean my coach and automatically within 15, 20 minutes, somebody will come and clean your coach. So unprecedented services we started in the railways. When I was aviation minister, we held the first ever global aviation summit on 15th and 16th of March 2019 in Mumbai, in which for the first time in the world, we brought together all airlines, airports, aviation engineer, everybody. And I announced in that many policies for innovation of railways. Whether it's the first ever air cargo policy was announced, unveiled there. We started a drone policy. The first time, India was probably one of the few countries in the world which started a drone policy. We started the policy for ensuring that over a period of time, the roadmap of how to manufacture aircrafts in India. It will take time. We have to start somewhere. So that was also unveiled there. We started a new system wherein the passengers need not show all these boarding pass and everything else. Everything can be online. Everything can be, your face recognition will be your identity, and therefore you can pass through. Any breakthrough measures were taken, and we reach a target of becoming the third largest aviation hub in the world. We wanted to make working on the policy framework, and many things were started. There was a Minister of Power on Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government. That time, you are so young to know that, because each one of you are born probably when I was aviation minister, power minister in 2000, 21 years ago. So many of you are not born at that time. So you are not aware of it. But those days, there used to be power shortage. There used to be power outages. There used to be blackouts. Short supply. The reason being, only 2% of the power was generated by the government companies, private companies, and government, which was state government, central government put together could not even manage to provide for everybody the power. And we did not allow private sector to come in. The government company didn't have the money, and we are bankrupt state electricity boards. Quality of power was always a suspect. So I said we'll come out with a completely massive revamping of the entire power sector. 1948 had nationalized the complete power sector, and therefore nationalized, so therefore private sector was not allowed to come in. I got a new Electricity Act passed. By doing that, the last few years, after 2004, we had seen $250 billion of investment coming to power sector only because of one law. And today we have become power surplus than power deficit. So just imagine the transformation that happened in shortest possible time in one sector of infrastructure called power. I had also started working on distribution of power. I wanted to ensure that theft in power sector will go away. I used to call the T&D losses, which are called the transmission and distribution losses, as theft and dacoity losses. And we said we'll arrest it by ensuring technology infusion into the power sector distribution. So I started a massive program for 40,000 crores to be coming in to distribution of power sector if the distribution companies will ensure that they will reduce the transmission and distribution losses. I also passed in the parliament a law, energy efficiency will become, so we created a Bureau of Energy Efficiency and started working on it very aggressively. I had also, in other category, I was a Minister for Environment and Forest. This was one of my most enjoyable ministry. I loved that ministry. We prepared a plan for, actually you'll be surprised that all environment clearances, the moment of files was available on internet at that time. Can you imagine? I was environment minister in 1998, 23 years ago. And 23 years ago, we had put the entire environment ministry clearances on internet. We started so many 500 initiatives, but that was my another interesting ministry. I was a Minister of Water Resources as minister dealing with interlinking of rivers. For the most ambitious program under Atal Bihari Vajpayee's prime ministership. There, I had 5,000 meetings creating awareness about water and telling people as to why we should do it. In fact, this has been the hallmark of making transparency and bringing people closer to us in my ministerial responsibilities. So as the railway minister, I said, I will not handle any tenders, no commercial decision will come to me, I will deal with policy. And I made it completely transparent so that corruption, wrong things should not happen. And that is what I started working even then, and also as the environment minister and all my ministries. Also, bringing people closer to us. As Environment Minister, we drafted many laws, and each of the law was done in consultation with people. I remember the biodiversity law, and India was one of the few countries to make that. We ensured that people will decide how the drafting should take place. So we had massive meetings to decide about drafting of law. Same thing we did, as the Minister of Chemicals and Fertilizer. We started working on new fertilizer policy, new chemical policy, new petrochemical policy, new policy for pharmaceutical. Each one of that, we had massive consultation with all the stakeholders. And to ensure that people will themselves will decide their own destiny, their own policy, their own concerns will be reflected into that. And therefore, we worked on each one of them. I remember recently, as the Minister of Commerce and Industry, our agriculture export policy, we prepared India's only third industrial policy. First was in 1956, second was 1991, and I put that policy again on the public domain, on the website. In addition to that, we had a number of road shows so that people themselves can decide how that industrial policy should look at. We prepared a vision for increasing India's exports. I had set up a group under chairmanship of Dr. Sujit Bhalla, who is now India's ambassador, who is India's representative in International Monetary Fund, so that we prepare a complete roadmap of India's getting into a new, ensuring that our strategy should be all pervasive, all inclusive, and therefore we worked on that. As I said, I also was Minister of Industry earlier, Minister of Heavy Industry, which were dealing with policy related to automobiles. Now, interestingly, I just told you, because you wanted me to narrate my experiences, I'll just tell you interestingly. I joined politics in 1996. Before that, I was practicing as a chartered accountant. I should be the chairman of the largest cooperative bank when I dealt with all cooperative segment and that was completely honorary. I never charged anything. As a chartered accountant, when I was practicing, I had more than 1,000 clients and I was doing quite happily in my professional service. But when I joined politics, I said, politics is not my profession. Politics is my responsibility of dealing with it in a manner that I can serve the people. So each of my ministerial responsibility, I worked on in such a way that people will benefit and I will be serving them only in my fiduciary capacity to help them do this. So I brought in transparency, I brought accessibility to the people, I bet maximum consultation so that anything that happens, people themselves will be involved. I've been to 80% of the districts of India over the last 25 years of my political career so that I can meet people and understand their concerns. I was 4-time Lok Sabha MP from Konkan, where we have done massive things. In 2,000 villages, though even I'm not a member of parliament from there, and I don't intend to contest an election, we are working in 2,000 districts, wherein we are trained 1 lakh women for self-employment. We are running nursing college without taking any capitation fee. We run sports institution. We run 450 Parivartan Kendras, which local community run for transforming themselves so that they can be self-reliant. So Atmanirbharta, we tried to introduce 25 years ago. That I became first time when I became member of parliament, I started this and we are really continuing with this program. We are working in a way that people themselves must decide their own destiny. People themselves must decide their own priorities. We'll be facilitators, we'll helping them, and we can do everything that is necessary for their good. Holistic development is our concept in that area that we still work. And we not only work now in Konkan, we work in Mumbai, we work in Pune. Now we also started going to work in Goa. There, the holistic development means environmental development, economic development, social development, physical development, intellectual development. So the whole idea is that holistic development must happen, and that should ensure that people will realize the true purpose of their life, and government agencies should be facilitators, but not intruders. They should not take away the basic initiatives of the people. So when I was Minister of Commerce and Industry, I started a program the district-led growth should be the new paradigm for bringing higher rate of growth in India. So we took 6 districts in India wherein the holistic development will happen. And this was the national program. I took all the chief ministers on board, all the district administration on board, so that development should happen driven by people for the benefit of people, and inclusive development should be integrated into the development model itself. So we have done number of such initiatives all over the country, all over India, and my various ministerial responsibilities. So now I worked at global level, but also, as I said, I continue to work at a very, very local level in Konkan, in 2,000 villages, wherein the area is completely local, completely rural, wherein people do farming, people do tourism, people do fisheries, and we work with 6 interest groups: women, youth, farmers, fishermen, ex-servicemen, and all of them are our target group, wherein we want to change the lives for better. So 6-dimensional growth for the 6 interest group, and we try to bring them to contact with global currents, but also work on their local development at local level. So this is something which I'm very glad that Prime Minister is now give a call for local, vocal for local. We have been working that, and for last 25 years, Prime Minister said that we must work for Atmanirbharta. So we are trying to make and train people for last 25 years. And therefore, as a minister, I could implement 5 years. As member of parliament, now 6th-time member of parliament, I've been working for in my constituency or my state, and I really realized that we have to work together to realize the dream of making India a real country full of its potential. To do that, each one of us contribute. Prime Minister Modi has given a very good clarion call for India to develop. I had prepared a plan of making India a self-reliant country, and I can clearly. So I stop here because I know the time was short. I've already taken more than 25 minutes. So I will stop here so that you can continue with the other program.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experience with us. That was truly an astounding pleasure hearing you. Your thoughtfulness is a gift we will always treasure.
2 questions which are available in next 5 minutes. One of the questions about this $5 trillion economy. In fact, I am glad to say that Prime Minister's vision of $5 trillion economy, I had prepared a complete action plan of 20% of that will come from industry. And I mentioned about industrial policy. 60% of that will come from services. So I've selected 12 champion sectors for which we allocated 5,000 crores sanctioned by the cabinet. For agriculture, 20% we prepared agriculture export policy. And each one of them, lot of action as Commerce and Industry Minister were taken under the direction and the vision of Prime Minister Modi. And as I said, this is something which I really look like. The question from Anurag Tiwari about how the future of Indian Railways look like. As I said, I'm very happy to say that we laid the foundation for the modernization of railways, and all the action was mentioned in my 2 budget speeches, which are available to the people. And as the first time, I started a practice of giving action taken report about how this will be realized over a period of time. So I'm very happy that whatever has been mentioned is now being taken forward, and therefore I really look forward to seeing railway becoming better and better by every passing day. I think we must work on that, and I think we should take it forward. I am very sure all of you will also contribute to making sure that India grows better, faster, and bigger, and you will all be working together. I think we will get opportunity to meet soon so that we can talk about all the issues together. I know it's already beyond my allocated time, so I will leave you here, and thank you for bringing me here into this program.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. We couldn't be more grateful. Your presence today has definitely impacted our minds with optimism and hope. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.